Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Live with Lenny. We're going to start out with a special guest who has some critical intel for anglers who don't have access to a boat. Then we'll dive into fishing for shad during the run, which is now officially on with several reports of solid action flowing in from multiple locations in the past 2 weeks. And finally we'll take a brief look at what's happening with the perch run, which is slowing in many areas but still provides the potential for hot action in some others. This episode is presented by Suzuki Marine.
Hey everybody, this is Zach Ditmars. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Live with Lenny. Without further ado, I'm just going to bring Lenny right on. Hey Lenny, how you doing?
Hey Zach, what's happening, man?
Not too much. You know, staying busy. Excited for the warm weather. Excited for some fishing trips coming up too.
Ooh, me too.
So before we get started, I just wanted to talk about this this new program we're working on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So the Chesapeake Perspective, yeah. So everybody, mark this date on your calendar, May 12th, 7 p.m. It's going to run 7 p.m. to around 8:30. We are going to do our darndest to educate and entertain as many people as we possibly can while we get recreational anglers really just more into the whole issue of the striped bass fishery. We really need the recreational community to come together and to help, understand exactly what's going on, the historical perspective, the future perspective, and B, play a role in the fisheries management. We need the recreational community to get together and have a real voice. So we're going to do a program not terribly unlike this program right here, Live with Lenny, for a Chesapeake perspective on the rockfish. However, we're going to have some real heavy-hitting experts. We're going to have fisheries managers. We're going to have fisheries scientists. We're going to have the people that really know what's going on. And I really hope everybody tunes in. Remember, May 12th, 7 p.m., that's the first one. This will be a series of 3. And it should be incredibly interesting, incredibly educational. And hopefully we can all get together and have real impact on the fishery.
Awesome, very cool. And we're going to have a link here to sign up, and you'll be notified. And it's going to be a great program. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All we're doing is getting an email from you and your name, so we can send you an email before the episode goes live, just to remind everybody so they tune in. You don't want to forget, right? Could be sitting there watching, Happy Days reruns and space it. So we want to make sure everybody tunes in.
Absolutely. It's 5:03, and on my way in, I saw on the interwebs that there was this new beer at Forward in Eastport. And featured on that is a boat called Last Call, Chesapeake Dead Rise. And the photograph is by Jay Fleming, who, and I just was so excited because it's from Smith Island. I know Smith Island's a dry island, but, but we've been to Smith Island, right? We went last year.
Multiple times, yeah.
You went twice. And we're planning to go again for the first inaugural Smith Island fishing tournament. And,
that's going to be a heck of a tournament. I can't wait for that one. What's the dates on that? Do you remember the dates on
that? May 20th to 22nd, and you can find them by just going on Facebook to Smith Island Fishing Tournament. I believe the registration is just open, and that's going to be a catch and release tournament celebrating the culture of Smith Island. So I just couldn't resist this beer, and I love Jay Fleming's photographs, and I just couldn't wait. I can't wait for Smith Island.
Awesome.
I can't wait for this either. So here we go. But so Lenny, how far away was Smith Island? Remind me. I mean, we came Smith Island across the bay down to Virginia.
Yeah, the run from here was about 60 miles. Took a little over 3 hours in my boat, which is a slow boat, and it's quite a haul. It sits on the Maryland-Virginia border. There are actually pieces of the island that are officially over the line into Virginia.
Right, and so we took your boat, which is a Glacier Bay.
Yep.
And then what's that powered with?
Twin 90 Suzukis.
Twin 90 Suzukis, and those have like 2,000 hours each on those things, and they're still purring like kittens, right?
Oh, they run like they were brand new. Now they have been meticulously maintained, I'll say that, but they never give me a moment of worry.
And I can attest to that. So guys, Suzuki is one of our sponsors, and rightfully so, because we can attest to the reliability. Lenny, that's 2 round trips, 120-mile round trips to Smith Island and back, planning on doing it again, all because you have 2 reliable Suzukis on your transom. And
Reliability is the key word. And I tell you what, you may or may not know, I'm in the process of getting a new boat right now. I have it ordered. It's on the way. And can you guess what kind of motor I insisted on having?
And the Suzuki, right?
Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I love that they sponsor us because I can feel really good about supporting them as they support us. They're awesome motors. You talk to anybody who has one.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to get one of my own on a boat of my own one day. So I just want to let everyone know that if they hop over to fishtalkmag.com/Suzuki, you can find a list of all your Chesapeake Mid-Atlantic dealers, participating dealers. There's many more, many Suzuki dealers, but if you're looking for service, repower, or possibly just a new motor, check it out. So I don't know. Again, thank you, Suzuki, for sponsoring another edition. So Lenny, I'll let you take over here. I understand you have a few guests you'd like to bring on.
We do. The intro was improper. It said a special guest. We actually have two special guests. Yeah, Luke and Edward. And I wanted to bring them in because these guys work for a company called Boat Setter, which, for lack of a better term, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the best way to compare it is it's kind of like Verbo for boats. And I wanted to have them on. We're going to keep this section brief because I know we want to get to the Shad and the perch, but I wanted to have them on because in the last, I don't know, 14, 18 months or so, we have gotten a ton of emails and contacts from folks who don't have boats and they're stuck on the shoreline angling and they want more articles that they can relate to. And we've been doing a bunch of them, but a lot of the fishing takes place from boats, especially out on the open Chesapeake. And this is a way that if you don't have a boat, you can kind of get in on one. So let's bring in Luke and Edward. And let me ask, hey guys.
Hey, Lenny, thanks for having us.
Yeah, hey, Lenny, thank you.
My pleasure. So before I get into the nuts and bolts of things, I have a pop quiz for you. Are you ready? Ready? We're gonna go to Luke first. Okay, Luke, what is the biggest fish you've ever caught?
Ooh, I think it was a 27-inch lingcod out in Seattle last year.
Lingcod. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's a neat one.
It was
Edward,
good eating.
you're on.
I'm pretty sure it was a muskie that I caught this past year, which was totally lucky, and I caught it on the fly in Tennessee, and at probably a 35 incher or so, 35, 40 inches in that range.
35 or 40.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
On the fly in Tennessee.
Yeah, total like once in a blue moon kind of thing where I got him on my first time muskie fishing as well. So very,
Nice.
very lucky. Yeah.
That is lucky. That's
Yeah.
the fish of 10,000 cans. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not expecting one for a long time.
All right, Luke, I'm sorry, but Edward wins.
I'll give him the credit. Edward taught me a lot about fishing, so I
All right,
expect him.
So let's get into fishing from other people's boats. So did I sum it up correctly? Verbo for boats, does that work?
Yeah, Verbo for boats is a great way to describe it. Just like you can, find properties to stay at all around the country and the world with Verbo, you can search anywhere you're looking to boat, and you can rent boats directly from the owner of all types. So anything from like a center console, a yacht, to pontoons, like you can see there, to skiffs, aluminum fishing boats. We have options on the ocean, lakes, rivers, and everything in between. So you can find whatever you're looking for, and you can find it with a captain if you don't have boating experience, or you can rent something and explore on your own.
So one thing immediately jumps to mind, not fishing related, but I just got to ask this because this is important. First thing that pops into my head is insurance. What's the deal?
So that comes up on a lot of people's minds, as it rightfully should. And Boat Setter, actually, we have an exclusive partnership with Geico Marine and Boat US, so that every boat that's being rented is insured for the trip. And then we also have professional operators who have their own insurance, but we verify every commercial operator that joins Boat Setter that they have insurance. And so Boat Setter is the only platform that guarantees that insurance is included on every rental or charter.
Okay, good. Mind at ease. Okay. Now you keep mentioning the professional operators. Now I could go, but it doesn't have to be, right? I could go rent a boat tomorrow. Let's say in Annapolis. Like, what kind of fishing boat? Give me an example. What am I going to find in Annapolis? What might I come
Yes. I know we've got center consoles for a few, like $100 an hour or so in that range, and then we've got some skiffs. We've got like the Boston Whaler Montauk's, as you can see here, and then we've got even like inflatable kayaks. We've got larger boats, so you can. One of the good things about BoatSetter too is like when you're doing a search, you can put in filters for what you're looking for. So you can search by boat size, you can search by price, and it'll help you find whatever you're looking for your type of adventure.
Now let me turn it back around. What if I really want a boat with a captain? Let's say really what I want is a charter. What are my options?
Yeah, we've got charters all over the U.S., whether you're looking in Chesapeake Bay or down in Florida, out west in like Seattle. We've got, so this one here is an example of a cut plug charters in Seattle where they do a lot of this type of style called mooching fishing for salmon, which is kind of unique to the area, which is cool. But we've got captains all over, and it's great because we can rely on their local expertise rather than trying to having to, it gives us all their experience, and we have these connections all over the US.
Cool. Now, I one other question immediately comes to mind. Let's say I'm a shoreline angler. Okay, I don't own a boat. Maybe I'm saving up for one, whatever. I don't have one yet, or I'm in between boats. Fishing from a boat can be kind of different from fishing from the shore, like in a lot of ways. So, like, I mean, I assume you guys have done this before. Like, what, if I'm going to a boat, what should I have in mind that I might not have thought about when I'm fishing from the shoreline? There's got to be some gear that I'm forgetting, or what do I need to keep in mind?
Yeah, so we try to, when boats that are set up for fishing on BoatSetter, we try to work with those owners to make sure that the renters are really set up for success. And so recommending that they have the proper gear for the boat. So if it is, if it's a fishing boat, that they make it clear in the listings that they have the rods, reels, and all that. And if they don't, then that, to make sure that the renter brings them. We try to have owners drop waypoints for people, so when they're coming to an area, because that's a big thing. We'll see a family traveling for a week and they're, hey, I want to go out and explore this area. Don't necessarily want to get a charter. And so dropping waypoints is a useful one. But I think that's an area where the fishing team is newer within BoatSetter, and we're trying to really work on education. And I think that's an area where we can definitely grow in the future too.
I got a special request for you guys. Okay. When you're talking to folks about outfitting the boat for anglers, please make sure that they know that the landing net should be the rubber mesh type, not the knotted nylon. All right. Because that is like, man, that's a big thing around here. We're trying to get away from those knotted nylon nets because they hurt the fish.
Mm-hmm.
They injure the fish. And you got to figure that some folks who are going to rent a boat may well be catching fish they're not used to catching. They might get some of those big old rockfish. And we want those fish to be handled with kid gloves. So that's my special request. Let's get the fish safe nets on board these boats if we can.
Definitely. I'm glad you called that out too, because I think one of the nice things about BoatSetter is that you're making a personal connection too with the owner of the boat. And so if you are renting something in an area that you haven't fished before, our owners are very friendly oftentimes, and like Edward's, like they'll point out waypoints or spots that you should check out, but they can also share that local intel and recommendations, and so that does help for things like the conservation mission in a local area, not just helping people find where to fish, but also giving those sorts of recommendations. I think is a great thing to see and be able to facilitate from the fishing community.
Cool. Now I see we're already bumping up on our time limit. I didn't want to stretch this too far because we want to get to the fish. Folks, if anyone has any questions for these guys, ask it now. Just pop it into the comments. You're always free to ask questions. We love the interaction. So if you got any questions for these guys, ask them now. And while we see if any come in, I have one final question for you. And that is, what if I decided I want to defray some of the cost of my boat, and I wanted to make my boat available to other folks and rent it out, maybe make a little money on the side? What would I do?
So You can set up a boat listing on BoatSetter through our website. Just go to boatsetter.com. And we're happy too, as the fishing team, to help any owners of fishing boats get set up. So you can reach out to us by email as well. We're fishingteam@boatsetter.com. But our website guides you through the steps easily, and a lot of people get set up in 15 to 30 minutes. And we'll talk you through everything about being successful once you're listed on BoatSetter, so you can make some of that money back and offset the cost of boat ownership and earn income.
Cool. That sounds great. Thank you, guys. Zach, do we have any questions on BoatSetter in particular coming in? Oh,
Nice. So would you allow kayak guides on your website? Yeah, so we allow kayaks to list on the website. To guide, the boat would need to be commercially insured. And so that would be something that we could talk about with you. And if you're navigating on navigable water, to be a guide as well, you would have to be a U.S. Coast Guard captain. So that's something to consider. But that's an option, and people do that all the time to become captains and start earning more on the water.
so I'm going to jump in on you on that one, Edward, because in the state of Maryland, they actually designed the laws around the kayak guides. They actually don't need a Coast Guard stamp, as I understand it. They need a Maryland State fishing license, fishing guide license. I'm sorry. And then they can actually show other people where to fish on their kayaks, and without actually need. So I don't know how that would affect the insurance aspect of things. That's your job to figure out.
Yeah,
I do know they did modulate the laws a little bit, specifically because kayak guides were having all these issues with them. Butch may well know more about it than I do, but I know they addressed that specifically. So it's an interesting little area there.
Yeah, that's a great question. Great to know. Thank you for asking that, Butch, and thank you for adding that info, Lenny. I'll go look that up after this.
Hey, there's Kim.
Nice.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Great to see a fan.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, if that's it, let's move on to Shad, man. I know everybody's waiting to hear about the fish. Oh, you're muted, Zach. You're a little like, oh, there you go.
I just want to say nice to meet you, Edward. Nice to meet you, Luke. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you again for having us.
Thank you all for having us on. Appreciate it.
All right, well, stick around on the other side on Facebook if you'd like to hop in any questions about shad fishing. Put them up.
Great.
Take care, guys.
Lines.
All right. See y'all.
All right. That was awesome.
Whoop. Ready
All
for
right,
Shad?
You ready to dive in on some shad?
Ready for Shad. I'm so ready for Shad.
I want to say thank you to Lenny Rudo and Eric Packard for guiding me to my first hickory shad. It was only the second time I ever targeted him, and I finally caught one, and I caught a few more after that. So thank you very much. And
That was a pleasure. That was a lot of fun.
I know this following presentation is going to help many others. Hey, Grant, how you doing? So just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, just put them up and we'll get to them as the topics sort of become relevant. And thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to go behind the curtain here and let Lenny do his thing. Let me know when you're ready for slide number 1.
I am ready at this very moment. Give me slide number 1. Come on. Slide number 1 really is just an intro, folks. You may recognize the angler. That is Eric Packard. That picture was taken the same day that we shot the cover that's on the current April edition. We have a feature in the April edition on how to catch shad that gets into a lot of the details. And for 2.5 weeks now, we started hearing about the bite. As is common, the farther south you are in the Chesapeake region, the earlier it starts to happen. So the Virginia guys get them first, and then the lower middle bay areas get them, and they just slowly work their way up. Like I say, a couple weeks now, we've been getting reports. Just this week, in this week's fishing reports, we just started to hear about them from all the way up north, up near Conowingo. I hope that doesn't get wiped out by the flow of the water. They're now calling for floodgate openings. I think it's on Saturday. They've announced, but they're coming, so hopefully it won't muck things up too much. We all know how it can get up there when that happens. But in any case, the shad are now hitting, up and down the shores of the bay, all the way top to bottom. And I think those southern runs might be in their peak right now. Now, what does a peak mean for shad fishing? You're going and catching hickory shad. You can catch them, dozens in a morning. The Americans are a little more rare. They get bigger. Haven't actually heard about a whole lot of Americans. It's mostly been the hickories. Conowingo spill 4.9. Okay, is that Saturday? I think that's Saturday. Yep, that's Saturday. So yeah, it's coming. But in any case, the shad are going down. Now's the time. If you're up there, drive south a little bit, maybe. We did hear from a reader who was at Fletcher's on the Potomac on Wednesday, yesterday. And the water was muddy and high. He only caught one. But the fact that it was muddy and high yesterday tells me that we'll hopefully, by the weekend, it should be back in shape. Zach, why don't you go ahead and take us to slide number 2, make it nice and big. We'll take a look at the rig here. What does Grant say here? What's the allure with the shad? They seem like giant minnows. Well, Grant, first off, they fight really, really well. Second off, they call them poor man's tarpon because they jump so much, and they give you some spectacular leaps. They're actually really cool fish. And a lot of times when they hit, they just smack it. It's like wham, there's no mistaking it. So, it's exciting. It is in Maryland, all catch and release. In Virginia, you can keep hickories, you can't keep Americans. Oh, wait a minute, we got another one up here. I can see it. Always thought the same thing, targeting little. Yeah, they put on an awesome fight. It really is something else. They go and go and go. So hopefully you can see on this slide, the rig is a tandem. Thank you, Eric. I'm sorry. Thank you, Zach. The rig is a tandem. The line's a little twisted on there, so it looks like it's double, but it's not. There's a little spoon on the bottom, about 1.5 feet, 2 feet above that. There's a shad dart. Ian, who just chimed in, he's Fish Talk's intern. He actually did a quick little video on how to tie these rigs, which is on our YouTube channel. You can go check that out any old time. The tandem rig works really, really well. And the tricky thing about the shad is, you never know what they're going to want. Day to day, they change their preference. One day, it's the gold spoon that gets them. The next day, it's the dart that they hit. The next day, it's a pink dart. And then the day after that, it's a green dart. Constantly changing. So one of the keys to being really successful with shad is if you're not catching, switch stuff up. Keep it changing. I do want to mention, in this picture, I can't tell from looking at it what that leader was. I know Eric ties 20 a lot. I tie 12, and honestly, I can't profess to be some kind of, shad Yoda or anything. Eric knows a lot more than I do, and he kind of reintroduced me to this fishing. I hadn't done it in a decade or better until we went again last year, and he does fine with the 20-pound test. I think 12 is plenty for most of these fish, and I do think that the lighter the leader you use, general rule of thumb, the more bites you're going to get. So I go with the 12, but anywhere in there is fine. All right, Zach, could you go ahead and take us to the next slide there, please? And let's see what we got coming up here. So, I was hoping to give you a better view of the rig. It's not a great view. You can see he's got a silver spoon on the bottom. Eric loves those little beads in front. I don't tie him. I don't know if it makes a difference or not. I don't know. But
I believe that comes on a pre-rigged one from Anglers. It's that's a pre-rig.
Oh, and the pre-rig has the little bead, huh?
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Again, you got the shad dart up top. That's a white with a pink head and a kind of yellow chartreuse tail. The other day we were down at Madwoman, it was the white dart with the pink head that seemed to me to catch the most. The other one that seemed pretty darn effective was like a lime green spoon. Wasn't really chartreuse. I hesitate to call it chartreuse. Kind of chartreuse, but it was more like a lime green. They really did like that one.
So Mark recommended the fluorescent Nungusser, which actually looks like a white and chartreuse with some silver fleck on it. Let me see if I can bring that up.
That sounds very much like the spoon I was using, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So I can't.
Yeah. It did have that silver, almost like glitter, embedded in it. And that was a good one.
I'll give you a look at it there real quick.
Oh, look at that. Now that's a little different than mine. Mine was all green.
Right.
But that's an interesting looking spoon right there. And that's the shape of these spoons. They're like, what are they, like an inch and a half long? I mean, tiny little things. Why don't you go ahead and take us to, is the slide next, or is our special techno gee-whiz surprise next? I think we have one more slide, right?
Yeah, we have one more slide. Here we go.
One more slide. There it is. And this, I just wanted to put this picture in here. This is when we took at Fletcher's last year. I just wanted to put it in here to show that this fish was on a gold spoon. The one previous was on a silver spoon. That particular day, they were pretty much eating anything you threw in the water. But again, if you're going shad fishing, you want to have a selection of these things on hand. If you take 10 casts and you don't get a single bite, swap it up. Try something different. All right, now Zach, is this going to work? Is this going to work?
Sure. Yeah, you ready?
Let's try. People still will be able to hear me, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Okay, because I'm going to kind of talk. Okay, here we are. This is at Fletcher's on the Potomac, and that's Eric right there catching the shad. The important thing to look for is the seam in the water, right about at his waist level. If you look to the left, you can see these little bubbles. They're actually swirling around and going upstream. Okay, upstream is to his right, downstream is to his left. So it's actually like a swirl right there in the current. That is critical. That's important. All right, that was awesome. We actually got the video to play. How about that, Zach?
It's a tough job, but someone's got to do
it. Great job. So the way that water was swirling around there, that's the kind of thing you want to look for. When you go to one of these spots to shad fish, you don't want to just start casting anywhere. You want to walk the bank a little bit and look for a seam in the current, an area where two different bodies of water kind of swirl around each other or meet each other, and there's a visible change in the surface. Now, in some of the smaller tributaries, you won't see this. Like up in the Mattawoman, we really didn't see this. We were way up. I mean, we're talking about a piece of water so narrow you could cast across it in a heartbeat by accident. But like going to Fletcher's, the Potomac, the Rap, the James, these larger bodies of water, you are likely to be able to spot a visible current. When you see that, that's what the fish kind of they gather around. So what you want to do is you take your tandem rig, you want to cast out beyond the seam, and then retrieve back through it. Second cast it out beyond the seam, give it a 5 count, let it sink, retrieve back through it. Third cast it out, give it a 10 count, let it sink down for 10 seconds, come back through that current. You will find that these shad will hang at different depths. Some days a 5 count gets them. Some days you got to let the thing hit bottom before you start retrieving in order to get the bites. It changes. So you got to vary your tactics as you're fishing for them. All right. It is actually thundering. This is
I can hear it too.
Yeah, this is April thunders. The first thunder we've had of the year, folks. I'm a little freaked out. I think it'll be okay.
Just let's hope the power stays on, because we're both we're in adjacent peninsulas, and if the power goes out, it's probably going to go out on both of us.
Yeah, outage will be very bad right now.
We've got a few comments, questions. You want to just some general stuff?
Pop one up. Let's see what we got.
And so Outdoors Maryland, he's a regular viewer. I'm not sure his first name, but he's never done any shad fishing. Didn't realize it was such a big thing. Do you eat them?
Okay, so nope. Remember, in Maryland, it's all catch and release. Virginia, keep the hickories. Most of those guys, honestly, keep them for bait. Now, that said, if you Google it, you'll find some really neat stuff, because shad, hundreds of years ago, played a huge role in society and in the economy. Shad was a really big, important fish. And all the stories, Google agrees on this, like everywhere you look, it agrees on this. All the stories say that the shad was actually George Washington's favorite fish to eat. So, nope, not a whole lot of eating getting done on them, but they're cool to catch. And every time you let one go, you make the father of our country happy.
Similar question. You already answered the first part, but
Oh, cool. Hey, great buying the book. Thank you. Yeah, you can totally catch and release them. And of course, you want to be gentle with them. You don't want to mess them up. It's totally legal. You just can't keep them. And then again, Virginia, they keep the hickories, but not the Americans. So let's see. What's this? I was told that Nungasser was invented and sold in. It got cut off, Zach.
By a man in
Oh,
Waldorf.
my man, from Waldorf.
I know about that, but that is gonna have to look into that. That's a cool
Yeah.
spoon, and
Got me. If anybody knows, chime in, please.
all right. So Robert Robinson says those spoons look a lot like the ones we use for Spanish mackerels,
Oh,
except
yeah,
you know.
totally. Very similar. Very similar. If there's any difference, it's just that they're smaller sizes, then you might still be using for max, But yeah, totally. Wow. It's really booming out there.
Yeah. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, let's get these questions. So Jay asked, "Do you tip the shad dart?"
Not at all. No, this is a zero bait fishery. In fact, as I recall, somebody the other day tipped their shad with a little piece of gulp. Is that right? And
That's
did not
right.
get any bites on it? Is that correct?
That's right. Well, one of our colleagues was using some scent, so I thought maybe an added scent would have done something.
That's true. He did smear the smelly jelly on his spoon. I forgot about that.
Was he
I've never
smearing
done that.
Or was he smearing it onto the shad dart hairs?
I don't know.
What I was finding the other day is that the spoon was attracting them in, and they were hitting the dart.
May well be. Yeah.
When I threw the dart without the spoon because it got ripped off I felt terrible. All I caught was perch.
Interesting.
Very.
Zach, wait a minute. Wait, hold the phone. You might have just landed on something here because if you remember, for a while, when you and I were there, I threw just the bare dart, no spoon, and all I caught was perch. Remember?
I do.
Yeah, I didn't catch any shad doing that. So that's really interesting. You may have just hit on something there.
All right. Let's see. We got a few more questions. Well, Mark commented about the history. In the 19th century, they fertilized fields with shad. They were so plentiful.
I don't doubt it. I believe they did it with rockfish too. If you look back long enough in the historical record.
Now we use blue cats, right?
Or snakeheads.
We got a few questions about geographical targeting regions. Do you want to touch on that later, or you want to dive into that now?
We can dive into that now. I don't think I had anything really more geographically specific, so go right ahead.
So we know Red Bridges is a perch spot. Do they get a shad run? And how about the Marshy Hook?
Yeah, I got to say, I haven't been over there. Actually, I haven't personally been to any of the spots on the shore this year. We have gotten reports from them, which will be in this week's fishing report going live at noon tomorrow. But I can tell you, because I just formatted them all, there were no specific identifications given away.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah, Red Bridges. Okay.
And he's using an addition. He's
Busted
putting
bait
a
orange stinger.
custom
Yeah.
orange stinger. All right, another geographical question, or more about warm water discharges. Does shad show up?
I've never heard of that happening. Now these fish are coming in to spawn, so they're following their anadromous behavior. They are going up the river that they were born in. They're dropping their eggs. They're dropping their milk. They're cruising. Now that said, it is very, very common in the warm water releases throughout the winter to load up with gizzard shad, mud shad. So many that a lot of times, if you're trying to catch rockfish or whatever, you end up snagging them. They do load into there, but that's mud shad, gizzard shad. Never seen it with Americans or hickories. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I suspect particularly right now during the run, you're probably not going to find them in those areas because they're going up the rivers. They're going to spawn. They're in reproduce mode.
All right. I think you already touched on this earlier, but maybe Apex is just tuning in.
Fletcher's, yeah. So Fletcher's was good up until all the rain, and then, like I say, Wednesday, we got a report that person only got one, and that it was muddy, and the water was kind of trashed. I would expect as that clears out, it should be absolutely peak action because they were. I think it was Eric who was there. I'm not sure, but we had prior to the rain, all that rainfall the other day, we did have at least one report of dozens in a morning of fishing. So they were on.
Interesting question here. Do the hickories die after they spawn?
That is an interesting question. I kind of doubt it because you catch so many different sizes, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know, Denny. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
If there are any fisheries biologists out there, please chime in. Let us know.
Mm-hmm. All right, so our good friend Wayne Young chimed in. The CCA Nova initiated an engagement with VMRC to regulate hickory shad with reasonable bag limits. Data assessment in progress. So it's under consideration. So maybe we will get back to maybe keeping a few, and we'll find out what they taste like.
Well, they do keep the hickories in Virginia right now.
Okay.
The question is, how many should you be able to keep? I think guys fill buckets with them sometimes. I'm not sure that there's a limit, except for in a couple specific waterways. I believe there are a couple specifics where you are limited, but as a general rule, you can kind of fill the bucket. So, and actually had a conversation with one of the Virginia. No to what, David?
I think he's saying no to they don't die.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then Joseph says hickories live for multiple years. So
okay.
I don't know how that correlates, but anyway.
Yeah, I did. I spoke with one of the VIM's biologists not terribly long ago about this very topic of keeping the hickories, and he said the hickories and the Americans are very, very different fisheries, very, very different species, very, very different numbers, and everyone kind of agrees. The Americans we need to let them go, but the hickories evidently are still have some pretty strong populations in some areas.
All right. I'd like to keep up with the questions because if we don't, we get a lot, and we'll have a lot at the end, and we'll be here till 7. So
are the snakehead having any effect on the shad at the Conowingo or Susquehanna? Are the snakehead having any effect on the shad? Are the snakehead having any effect on the rockfish? Are the snakehead having any effect on the yellow perch? Are the snakehead having any effect on the white perch? Oh, and are the blue cats? This is a big topic, big question. In fact, Zach, we should probably plan on addressing this one night. We should find a guest who has a lot of insight into the specifics with this. I think everybody is very, very worried right now that the answers to all of these questions is yeah. The real question is how much of an effect. And, I should mention, this is a great time to mention, everybody out there should be signing up for the invasive species count, that's put on by CCA. Zach, maybe you can real quick find a link or something you can throw up there for it too while I'm blabbing away. But this is actually a really cool thing. What happens is when you catch a snakehead or a blue cat or a flathead cat, and you take a picture of it on a ruler. So there it is. Man, that was fast action, Zach. I'm impressed. Anyway, you take a picture of your invasive species on a ruler. You send it via the iAngler app. It's basically just click it, away it goes. And then the fishery scientists get to keep tabs on, numbers being caught, blue cats, in the Patuxent, snakeheads in the Blackwater, whatever. It gives them some kind of sense of how many are getting caught. If you gut the fish and display its stomach contents, that counts as 2 points. You get a point for taking the picture. You get another point if you display the stomach contents because they want to know what's in these fish too. And this costs nothing to enter, by the way. This is totally free. So what happens is each month, CCA Maryland, which is supporting this effort, they draw prizes, and they draw a slew of really cool prizes. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff. In fact, I want a pair of zippy clips, the little snippers that have CCA on them. Very cool. But there's a ton of stuff that, I don't want to say what it is because I'm going to be wrong, but there's a ton of fishing tackle. There's a whole lot of items that you can win, and it doesn't cost anything to enter. And all you do is send them the pictures, and poof, you get a point. You get entered. Your name goes in the hat, and then they pick these winners, and they pick a ton of winners. So it's actually, there we go. So it's actually a really cool way to A, win fishing goodies, and B, participate in some citizen science and give the fisheries managers some data that they wouldn't otherwise have. So it's really neat. I would encourage everybody to go and do it. I've signed up. I signed up last year. Zach, are you signed up?
I've already submitted 2 fish.
Beautiful. There you
Have
go.
you ever caught a snakehead that big before?
I have never caught a snakehead that big.
Who's
I
that
think
guy?
you knew the answer to that question, didn't you?
I couldn't
Okay.
resist. I couldn't
You
resist.
got me beat on the snakeheads. No question there. We got any more
Where-
questions? Or should we pop back to the slides? What do you think? What do you got?
A couple questions. I just want to so everyone who, if people aren't watching comments or if they're on, we have a lot of viewers on Facebook, a lot of viewers on YouTube. So Jay Kwan had asked what size spoons you recommend, but our faithful intern Ian Rubin, 1/8 and 1/4, depending on depth and current. Mark Brager recommends a number 13 Tony with green mylar strip. Do you have anything to weigh in on that, Lenny?
I think the drone style ones that you throw, I think they're double zeros. Either double zeros or triple zeros. They're like the smallest ones they make.
Speaking of the invasive count, Butch knows a good guide can get you on snakehead.
Uh-huh.
If anyone's looking for a guide, Butch Huber is the man. So he'll get you on those Eastern Shore snakeheads for sure. I've seen my picture does no justice to Butch. He is a snakehead whisperer. So he's real. That is real all-American fishing ventures. All right.
All right.
Okay, I think we're all caught up. We want to jump into slide number 6.
Yeah, go ahead and put it up real fast, and then we're going to bop to 7. I think
we're on 5. We're on 5. I'm sorry. Here we go.
We're a little behind. So, well, 5 was the video, which you made happen so beautifully. Oh, but you must have renumbered my slides.
Oh no, you know what? Our stream is renumbering our slides.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to throw this one up. Gentleman fly fishing north of Fletcher's. I just wanted to throw this one up so people could see that, you can get them fly fishing too. A lot of guys love to do that. They use short little streamers. I do not honestly know what they're called, but they're little fuzzy fishy things that you would throw with a fly rod. And the shad appear to eat them. The one thing, I'm sorry?
Oh, the folks at Tochterman's definitely have a wide variety of shad because I've actually first time I went shad fishing. They hooked me up with a few. Regretfully, I didn't catch anything because I'm not a fly fisherman.
Well, they have got the fly shop. You walk up the stairs into the second floor of that place, and your eyes just bug out at all the flies they have. But I am told, again, this is, now I'm not only not an expert, but like I'm a total Nimrod. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I am told that if you fly fish for them, you should be using a sink tip line so you can get the fly down. Seems to make sense to me, but again, I'm not a fly guy, so don't take it from me. All right, go ahead and take us to the next slide, would you, Zach? And this is looking in the other direction from Fletcher's. Where we just looked at with the fly guy was heading upriver from Fletcher's, which is a great way to walk. There's a easy beaten path. This is what happens when you turn around and look downriver. As you can see, there's a body on just about every rock, and there are boats floating around out there. This place in particular gets crowded. City Dock on the Rep gets crowded. A lot of these spots, they will get crowded. So I would say don't let it deter you. But if you have the choice between going on Tuesday and going on Saturday, well, it's a really easy decision to make. You do kind of have to expect there to be a crowd when the shad are running strong. It's going to be a part of it. So, put on a big old smile, say hi to everybody, enjoy the fellowship of being out there, but be prepared for it, and I'm just going to add to that real fast for gosh sakes, everybody. I know 99% of you already know this, but for gosh sakes, take all your trash out with you. These areas that get heavily trafficked do get trashed up no matter. It just seems like no matter what. So, take your trash out with you. And gosh, if you have the time, take a bag with you and maybe grab a few extra items on your way out, stuff them in that bag. All right, Zach, why don't we go ahead and switch gears over to perch unless we have any more specific shad questions at this point.
Gotcha. I think Ian asked about the sinking line, about fly fishing. I think you already covered that. I just wanted to mention to everyone out there, just, we got more content. We got a great video on how to catch shad on fishtalkmag.com. So that's actually right on the homepage, where you can use the nifty search function over there as well. So be sure to look for more information after this concludes. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach.
Sure thing.
All right. So we'll do a little gear shifting here. Go over to white perch. I'm gonna preface this by saying last year's perch run was a little weird. It wasn't as spectacular as one would hope. This year's perch run is a little weirder. It's less spectacular than one would hope. The yellows for me were basically MIA. I know some guys who did get into them good, but it was an incredibly limited time frame. I mean, like a 3-day time span. The vast majority of the folks that I talked to had what I would term a disappointing yellow perch run. The white perch run, I had a couple really good days, but they were a couple weeks ago. I haven't been in the last couple weeks. I have been going to the Patuxent. It's kind of one of my favorite new perch run spots. I used to go to the shore all the time, and the Patuxent's a lot closer, and found that it can be really, really good there. The last couple of years have been pretty phenomenal. Last year I caught them there until mid-April. I expect that they're there right now. I don't expect it'll be quite as hot as it was a couple weeks ago, but if you want to go for a fish you can introduce to some hot oil that evening, then this is the one you want to target right now. The white perch or the blue cats are where you're really going to want to go. So the method of angling for them is super duper simple. You can do a lot of different things. What I find by far most effective is just your simple shad dart and then put a grass shrimp on the hook. That's all there is to it. Now, 2 weeks ago in the Patuxent, I'm talking in the area of Jug Bay, we went upriver from Jug Bay, I don't think a mile, maybe a mile, found an area where it was 10 feet on one side, and then what came up and had maybe a 5-foot zone on the other side. And on the high tide, they were in that 5-foot zone. On the falling and the low tide, they were in that 8-10 feet of water. And we had brought minnow with us. We were hoping we might be able to find some yellows. We didn't. But what we did find was, and this is often a problem when the white perch are running, you would catch 10, 12, 15 white perch like this. Where's that camera? Like this big. Like it was really hard to get a fish over like 5-6 inches long, just because the moment your dart got down near the bottom, it got eaten. It was just instantaneous. I couldn't even tell you how many we caught. 50, 60, 80. I have no idea. But what we discovered was when you put a minnow on instead of a grass shrimp, well, heck, half the cast you didn't even get a hit. But when you did get a hit, it was a perch like one of these. It was a nice perch. We got them up to 12.5 inches. And after a while, we stopped fishing the grass shrimp. And we were just putting minnow on the dart every time, purely to avoid all the little fish. One other thing I do want to mention, last year, later as we got into April, it got better and better. The farther upriver you went, you had to really get to the spawning grounds. We didn't really catch them so much on the way out, but we caught them up in the very freshwater areas, going up the little creek arms, little tributaries. And that was a fishery not dissimilar from what you find with yellow perch sometimes, where you can go up a stretch of a creek and there can be 30 trees overhanging or in the water that look awesome and don't hold fish. And then you find one. You find the one tree that, for whatever reason, who knows, holds endless fish. So what I always tell folks is when you're going for these fish, particularly late in the season, once you're into April, you start prospecting, keep on the move. You're going to see a lot of spots that look fishy and you're not going to get bit. Keep going. Don't spend a whole lot of time working those spots, even though they look great. Keep moving, because sooner or later you're going to find that one tree and that thing's going to hold all the fish. It can make quite a difference. Really quite surprising. You can go ahead and pop that next slide up, Zach, if you would like.
Sure thing. I just want to pop up a comment from Live Liner Fishing. those warm days in March, said the spillway at Y Mills.
Nice.
Slayed them.
So I want you, live line or fishing, please come back to us here and tell us yellow or white. I'd like to know, or a mix. I'm just curious. March 8th. So we're going back a good ways, but that's interesting. I want to know if it was yellows or whites. One other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, maybe while he comes back and tells us, the salt ponds generally come on after these river runs. They should be red hot right now. I haven't been able to these jerks over here at Triton Beach closed up my neighborhood spot. They're doing construction in the park and they yellow. Cool. Thank you. Oh, nice. I'm gonna check those out. So yeah, the salt ponds should be on right now. Triton Beach, they're doing construction and they closed the parking lot. You can't park there. You can walk in, but I don't want to walk 2 miles to go white perch fishing, so I haven't done it. But in any case, the salt ponds should be in their prime right now. They really should. Now, I'm going to look up something really quick because, like I said, I know some people who did really well for very brief, limited periods. And right now, I am looking to see the dates on these pictures because I want to see if it was right around March 8th. I'll bet it was, because we had the right weather for a very brief time period. And the weather has not been cooperative this spring. White's about 3 weeks later. Let's see.
Well, Lenny, I have some friends down at Shoreham and Triton as well, and they asked me, and I think they're going to walk in. So hopefully, I have some reports on Big Pond or Deep Pond this week.
Cool. I would bet dollars to donuts. That's a good bet right now. That's like a really good bet right now. Yep. It was the second week of March that Vadim was getting them over in. He wasn't at Y. He was at the Tuckahoe. He was on the Tuckahoe over by Hillsborough, and he mentioned at the time there was one tree that was holding all the fish. I think he said he caught one fish in all the other spots he tried. And in this one spot, crushed all the fish. And then I think, Zach, didn't you go there like a day or two later?
The very next day, and I caught 3 pickerel.
Of course.
The water level had dropped probably about 2 to 3 feet. So I think they probably, moved downstream.
Yeah. And like I say, when they do that, they can really ball up in one little spot. Or, I'm sure there's more than one spot, but you can search all day to find one little spot where they're all sticking. And a million spots that look great, they just don't hold fish. Although sometimes, like you said, you got 3 pickerel out of it. I found sometimes when you're doing that, particularly working trees, you start getting into crappie, which can be nice too. And by the way, all the reports for a couple weeks now, several weeks on crappie have been really good. A lot of guys have been catching some really nice crappie, both in the rivers and in the reservoirs. I think they're getting into that stage where they're not going to spawn yet. They're not really thinking about spawning, but they're kind of like, I'm hungry and I'm going to eat as much as I can before I think about getting ready to spawn. Because they usually go at like 60 degrees, I think. But there are a lot of good reports for them in this week's reports, as well as the last several weeks.
Cool. Quick question from Steven here. He's asking, if you're tipping your shad dart with live bait, does it matter? Can you just use a jig head of the same size?
Yeah, you absolutely can use a jig head. I have done it plenty of times. Shad dart's kind of the standard, it might just be rote, but you absolutely could take like an 1/8 of an ounce jig head, thread a couple grass shrimp on there, cast it out. I've done it before when I've run out of darts, it absolutely does work. I personally, earlier in the season, like in the February time frame, when the fish are still balled up in the deep holes, I'll go to the bottom rig. At that point in time, the bottom rig, I think, works a lot better. But as they start moving shallower, you can throw some of this lighter stuff and be okay. And that's absolutely fine. Jig head, sure. Little teeny bucktail, absolutely.
You know, I always used to growing up. We used to use those skinny Aberdeen hooks.
Hmm.
Slide the grass shrimp right on there, and just use a split shot between the bobber and the hook.
Yeah, and in the salt ponds, it's pretty much all a bobber game, right? If you try and drag a shad dart across the bottom of one of those salt ponds, you'll just have a weed-covered mess in like 10 seconds flat.
So we had a couple people answer this question, but it's kind of going back to the shad. But you know, since they're watching live, let's sort of address it. It's just about licensing. So, do you need a DC fishing license for fishing fletchers?
You do, yes. Yeah, you need a DC license, which is very cheap. Don't take my word for it, but it's like $5 or something, $7. It's something silly. It's not much.
Cool. And yep. Thanks, Brian, for confirming that. Appreciate it. All right.
It's very cheap. Go online and Google it, and it's like $5 and 30 seconds of your life. I mean, it's really easy to get.
All right. Ian chimed in about crappie. 58 to 60 degrees is when the crappie spawn. Has been also catching them in shallow ponds. Oh, John actually going back to that. No DC license if over 65. So
the senior exclusion.
Now, senior anglers, that only applies to by foot, not by boat, right? Is that?
Say one more time.
Can senior anglers, they don't need a license even fishing by boat, or is that just by foot?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah. Now, it is important to note, if you are a senior angler, you do still need your fisherman identification number, your FIP, or your fin, depending on which state you're in. All right, let's get to that next slide. What do you say?
Bring it on.
All right.
At this point, we've talked about it a bunch. I was going to show that. We'll talk about the salt pond.
It's my cooler, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That one on top, he was 12.5 inches. That was a nice perch. And we ate well that night. Oh, man, normally I love frying these guys up, but I made the fish cakes, and then you reminded me the fish cakes recipe comes from Brian. It's Brian's fish cakes, which the recipe is in my book, Rudo's Off the Hook, Rudo's Guide to Cooking Your Catch, my cookbook. I have one cookbook, and it's also in the DNR. Help me out.
It's the DNR cookbook, and it's also on Prop Talk, so you can find Brian's fish cake recipes. It practically owns the internet. It's the most famous perch recipe on the interwebs.
It is really good. I mean, it's like eating a crab cake that just doesn't taste exactly like crab. Tastes a little more like perch, but it's really good.
Sure, you guys can find it there on Prop Talk. Oh. Bon appetit, Brian's perch cakes. You know, nice, easy recipe.
There we go. Yeah, you know, I love frying up perch. I mean, I just love a crispy fried perch, you know, in a little like panko style breading. But after you do that, like, you know, 4 dinners in a row, it's like, man, I got to do something different. And the fish cakes is the move. All right, what do we got left for slides here? I think we had one more, didn't we? Could be wrong.
We do. And it's the perch cake master himself.
There's Brian. He was fishing with me a couple weeks ago. I only put this one on here to show the different dart. Lime dart, white dart. They was working the other day or 2 weeks ago. Sometimes it's pink. I got to be totally honest with you. In my experience, a bright colored dart, it doesn't seem to make, with these white perch, doesn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of difference. When you got a grass shrimp on there, the grass shrimp is what they want. It really is. Even when they were super duper duper thick the other day and we were just catching them hand over fist, I did try a bare dart a couple of times just for yucks, just to see, you know, are there so many perch down there? What's going to happen? And I caught a couple, but it wasn't, you know, instead of getting, you know, a bite the moment it sunk beyond 10 feet, it was more like every 5th cast I got a bite. And I know I was dragging that dart by a whole lot of fish eyeballs throughout the course of that. So I think the grass shrimp is a whole lot more critical than the dart color. Personally, I don't worry about it a whole bunch. I just get a bunch of different bright ones. You know, if I'm having trouble catching, I might try swapping it out. Size is probably a little more important. Often with these white perch in the rivers, it's important to get down to the bottom. You want to be bouncing along bottom. And if you're not getting that deep, you might not catch them. But yeah, chartreuse works great. White works great. Take a pick.
Now, I mean, you can't beat fresh grass shrimp, but you can buy the preserved grass shrimp often at the tackle shops, right?
You can. I'm not. I have never. I have not tried them, and so I'm not ready to pass judgment on them. I
Oh,
do.
I thought me and you fished together once, and I thought we bought some
Were
at
they
Anglers. And they
preserved ones?
well, it's kind of like comes in like a
Hmm.
newspaper or something.
Did
I
we
think they're
catch?
fresh. They're fresh, but they're not in water.
Did we catch?
Yeah,
Huh. I don't remember.
maybe I'm mixing it. Actually, no, I think I'm mixing it up. But yeah,
Well, like I said in the last live with Lenny, we focused solely on the early season perch. My backup is the little gulp minnow, the little white 1-inch minnow gulp. What are they called? Little teeny gulps. And then I rip them in half to make them even teenier. So I have like a 1/4-inch little white gulp tail like this. And then I stick that on the hook. That works pretty darn good. Actually, at one point the other day, I went to that purely to have to stop having to reach into the minnow bucket to get grass shrimp. And that was before we discovered the minnow did better. And then I switched over to the minnow because we're catching bigger fish. But I did fish that for a while. That's kind of my backup if I don't have shrimp or I don't have enough shrimp. Little teeny gulp, rip that guy in half.
nice. All right, we got a report. Might as well bring that up from Steven. Out yesterday for Shad. Only boated 2. But the water was stained and muddy. That's the same report we got from Eric Packard. He said he got 1 down in Charles County, and same thing. So this rain is gonna mess things up a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, the weekend looks better. It looks like it's improving. It might not be back on strong until the end of the weekend, but Saturday might be decent. Kind of hard to predict, but
So
could be.
So Tommy from Amped Up, they're hosting Carpathon. So again, hit the Shad run and join in that. So, even though you can't fish for striped bass, we have a lot of things to fish for. So I was not too crazy last weekend about fishing for blue cats, but I was anxious to go out with an old fishing buddy, Patrick, who was a contributing writer for Fish Talk, and we hit the Marshall Hall and got a few blue cats.
And then, which you took home and ate, right?
I did. And because they were under 20 inches, and I'd never caught and kept blue cat.
What?
No, so I wanted to try, and it was pretty good. It wasn't perch. I love perch. I love snakehead. Those are probably my 2 favorite. What is your favorite? Chesapeake Bay species. So it's got to be tidal. Let's just narrow it down to what
The blue crab.
That's not a fish.
What? It's a beautiful swimmer. What are you talking about?
Okay. Then
every time I decide on a favorite fish, like 10 minutes later, I change my mind. I've been through this before. People ask me, "What's my favorite fish to fish for?" Rockfish. What's my favorite fish for?
David Sikorsky agrees.
That's it. I can't. It's you're gonna make my head explode. I can't nail it down to one. I just can't. And I tell you what, there are days in March where I'm like, yellow perch is the best fish ever. And then there are days 2 weeks later where I'm like, white perch is the best fish ever. It changes.
It blows my mind that there's not I'm not aware of a restaurant that serves perch.
Huh.
It's kind of crazy. It's the most plentiful, abundant fish on the bay. It's like the best tasting. And maybe there's some fish fry places, but here in Annapolis, no one serves it.
I don't know. I can't say I've seen it. Maybe it's because it's easy enough for us to catch them and eat them.
Yeah, you can buy them at the seafood market.
Yeah,
the seafood market's the only place I can think of where you can go. They'll even fry them up for you. So anyway,
right. I see Michael Cool's question. I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Oh my gosh!
We're having some technical difficulties here.
No, the truth of the matter is, we don't know. Nobody knows. That's why we've got stuff like the invasives count going on, so we can try and get a handle on how many of these fish are there, where are they, what are they eating. It's why the DNR and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, I think it was, did a multi-year study in the Blackwater to look at the impact of the snakeheads, at which they found, by the way, there was a significant change in the general species makeup over there due to the snakeheads. Unlike on the western shore, where in the Potomac there does not appear to have been any major change. It's also tough to predict. We could throw around opinions all day. Here's what I'm going to say instead. It's all guesswork until we get more science done. And, man, we found out with the rockfish, getting the powers that be to dedicate budget to doing science on fish is really like, woo, man, talk about a Sisyphean task. It is not easy. I think we may be beginning to make some headway with rockfish just because there's so many people begging for it. We're all begging for catch and release mortality studies. But the first step is for us, we anglers, to show that we give a darn by playing a role. Sign up for the invasive species count. Take the picture of the fish. If you're going to take it home and eat it, gut it. Open up the stomach. Take the picture. Send it in. Doesn't cost you a dime. Not only are you helping gather data, your participation shows that you care, that we care, that the recreational fishing community cares, that we're into this stuff, that we're willing to put forth 30 seconds of extra effort to help gather data to figure out just how bad is this blue cat impact on the striped bass young of the year. It's really important stuff, right? But we can sit here and speculate all day. It doesn't prove a darn thing. We got to gather science and be able to prove what's going on. It's tough to even make educated guesses at this point. That's my 10 cents.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Well, Zach, I see we are over time. Do we have any more questions we want to hit on before we put this one to a wrap?
I think we pretty much touched on everything. A lot of people chimed in with their favorite foods. We got a lot of perch lovers out there. We got a lot of walleye, flounder, cobia. Bruce says the best fish is the one on his plate, which
it's hard to argue with, isn't it?
Baltimore lake trout.
As I understand it, nobody knows exactly what fish that is.
I know there's a band from Baltimore called Lake Trout. They're really good.
I've been told you can get lake trout in like 20 different restaurants in Baltimore, and they could all be different fish. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've been told. And I did grow up in Baltimore, just for the record.
Sounds like a fish stock investigative reporting. We need to go into the markets and identify what actually Baltimore lake trout is.
Interesting.
All right. Well, really appreciate everyone tuning in. So we were thinking about changing the time, Lenny. What do you think? We were thinking about maybe going a little later, giving time for people to get home, put their feet up.
We were talking about that.
7 p.m.
So we landed on 7 for the May 12 Chesapeake Perspective, which again, everybody tune in, May 12, 7 p.m. Chesapeake Perspective. We're going to learn a lot. I'm not entirely sure what is best for Live with Lenny. So here's what I'm going to say, Zach. Let's not nail it down yet. Let's ask people to email, comment, whatever. Is 5 o'clock best? Would it be better to move to 6? Do you think 7? And then we can send out. Can we alert people in the fishing report list maybe as to what we land on prior to the next Live with Lenny?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Why don't we do that? Let's not lock one in, but I have gotten a few comments from folks that they wish it was a little later so they had time to get home from work.
Right.
So maybe.
So our next episode we're going to stick with May 5th, 5 p.m. May 5 at 5.
Yeah,
now,
next May.
I got to regretfully inform you that I have to go fishing in Wachapreague that day. So I'm going
poor guy.
Call out sick that day. I guess,
Well, what am I going to do this? I can't do this myself. We got Chris coming.
You got 3 kids. You're fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, May 5. We're going to stick with 5 o'clock. So next month will be the same, but from here until then, folks, give us your input. We'll make a determination based on public opinion. Unlike some other organizations who sometimes collect public opinion and then completely blow it off, we will actually pay attention.
No, you'll have your associate publisher Chris Charbonneau will be here, Captain Chris. So you got Charb the Bar. We need to get that embroidered. We need to get that on a shirt or something. And we need to get him out fishing too.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks again for Suzuki for sponsoring another episode of Live with Lenny, and of course, fishing reports. Don't forget them every Friday at noon. Get all that intel.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Zach.
Thank you. Outro music, go.